How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain. It's pretty early where you are?
Yeah, but I usually wake up at 5:45, so this is
Why
quite okay.
why so early?
I don't know because I just like to have my downtime in the morning and then I just like take things really slowly and then I can start work
Do
really
you
fresh.
do you go to bed pretty early then?
Yeah, I go to bed around 9.
Okay, yeah. Well, then that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's see,
indeed.
I always have a problem with going to bed late, so it's so hard for me to wake up, really early, but I have to get
Yeah.
out of that habit. I have to try to figure out how I can go to bed a little earlier. And I don't do anything. That's the funny thing. There's nothing that I actually like do of interest. Usually it's just watching TV and then,
Yeah,
you know, nothing productive. So,
I get that.
first of all, I like to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me
Yeah, of course. So, where are you located at?
in the Netherlands.
Netherlands. Okay.
Yeah.
And so is there a big obviously I'm having you on the show for, for your competitive bodybuilding career endeavors. Is there a big like scene of bodybuilding in the Netherlands?
I would say it's not very big, but um there's quite a scene, I would say.
Yeah.
There are quite a number of athletes here, and we have about 4 regional shows a year. So I think
Okay.
that's quite okay for a
Yeah.
small country.
Yeah, that's actually four regional shows is actually really good because there's some places outside of the US that don't even have, they barely have one. So it's
Yeah.
four is quite a lot. Um, how did you get involved in bodybuilding?
So I've been an athlete my whole entire life, and I've always heard from people that I should try bodybuilding because I've got the body for it, but I was like, nah, it's not. It's not really a real sport. I'm not going to do that. But then COVID hit, and I couldn't join my trainings anymore because I did rugby before this, so it was all contact sports.
Uh-huh.
And we couldn't do that, so I thought, you know what? Maybe now's the time to just try something new, and the rest is history.
So you started it just fairly recently then, just within
Yeah, I
COVID.
started it almost 1.5 years ago,
Okay.
actually.
Okay. And how, I guess, so you couldn't do rugby, so you got into bodybuilding, but was it just like a personal decision, or did somebody you come in contact with somebody that, made it interesting for you or like made it desirable for you?
Um, well, not really. I think I just chose to do it myself. It was
Okay.
just something that just came into my head one day.
Yeah, yeah. That's unique because usually like the girls that I talk to or some of the guys that I talk to, mostly with the girls, the guys usually do it on their own, but mostly with the girls, they always come in contact with somebody. Like it's either somebody approaches them at the gym and says they have a great, physique, or their boyfriend tells them, hey, you could try to compete. But you just saw it and you were like, hey, I'm gonna go into it, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So why wellness? Why is that the division that you chose to do?
Well, I did track before and I did
Hmm.
rugby, so I was always a sprinter and my legs were,
Hmm.
were developed already, I would say,
Hmm.
compared to my upper body. And I also just really like the wellness
Yeah. Yeah.
division.
Yeah, they definitely have like a very interesting look, and it's a look that I think most people like most everyday women are trying to attain, and it looks good on stage. So I was at the Arnold just recently. I know we talked about it through DMs, and they had
Hmm.
a really really great wellness showing. It really really like the crowd is really into it. So almost as much as the men's open, which usually
Yeah.
gets the most, but that the wellness is right up there. So it's really exciting. You know, I think, who do you like in wellness? Like, do you have somebody that you like follow that kind of you model your, you know, uh, physique, I should say, after?
Alexis is my posing coach actually. So
Okay, okay.
so
Yeah, she was there.
I really like her. I really like her personality as well, and her physique is really nice
Hmm.
because I'm not very tall either, just like all the other wellness athletes. um I think her physique and Isa's physique match
Hmm.
mine quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was a little upset. Uh, you could say that Issa wasn't at the Arnold.
Yeah.
I know she was injured and she couldn't make it. But man, I was really looking forward to seeing her on the stage. Alexis did a really fine job. The area where I was sitting at, I don't know if it was just it happened to be where all her fans are, or they were just everywhere, but like when she came on stage, it's like everybody was just like screaming for her and everything. So she has a really like a lot of people find her like very appealing. Like she has a good personality that people, connect with. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So when did you like do your first show? Like how, kind of like what's the progression of your competitive career?
So I joined June of 2021,
Hmm.
and I prepped for my first show in October. So I was going to compete that year, but then my show got canceled because of COVID.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah,
A lot of people
it
are
wasn't very
have dealt with
pleasant.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I took a few months off, and then I prepped again in June in the summer last year and did my first show in September. And now I'm in my off season.
Okay. Okay. How did the first show go?
It went really well. I got second in true novice
Hmm.
and third in the open. So
That's
that was
awesome.
really
That's
nice. Yeah,
fantastic.
it
It's a really,
was.
yeah, it's a really good job. So so speaking about shows being canceled, that's the most frustrating thing about the COVID situation. It's the fact that you prep this, you go through this whole entire prep, you get yourself ready, you're ready to compete, you haven't, you cut down your food, you've done all this cardio, you're lean, and then all of a sudden your show gets canceled. And it's just so frustrating. And it's I don't even know how to describe it. Frustrating, I guess, is the best word to describe it. But it's how did you like handle it, like when you were told that your show was canceled? Were you really upset about it, or did you just kind of just say it is what it is and just move forward?
The funny thing is, I didn't even get told. I just saw it on Instagram from
Oh,
someone else.
that's a great
That's
way
a
to
lot more.
find out. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
So,
fantastic way to find out that
and
your
I was like,
show's good.
wait, is this actually a joke? But then I texted a lot of other people and they were like, no, it's actually canceled. And I was like, okay. It took me a while. I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? And I didn't know
Hmm.
if I wanted to eat, if I just, I don't know. But I didn't really take it really personally, or I wasn't super hard on myself for it
Hmm.
because it was it was just my first prep as well.
Hmm.
So I was just like, yeah, okay, time to move on.
Yeah. Do you feel like you came in better at the next show than you would have at the first one, if that makes sense, since you
Yeah,
had more time?
for sure. Because I think I that few months off, I did build some muscle as well, and
Hmm.
yeah, I just looked a lot drier, and I had more mass for the second show, so
Hmm.
I could improve there, which was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's a positive, aspect of it. It's always good to kind of look at the positive side of things. So now you're, in your off season. How is that going?
Really well. This is my first proper off season, so it's new for me because I've never been this heavy ever, but it's nice actually. I really prefer my off season look than my prep look, my
You
show
do?
look.
Really?
Yeah,
So why is that? Are you just too lean? Like you
yeah,
don't like being that lean?
No, because I think I've just been lean my whole entire life as
Hmm.
well. So it's just nice not looking weird or freaky, I would say, on the street. I just want to fit in my clothes again, and I don't feel cold all the time. I can eat a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
and I really enjoy eating. So yeah, I
Well,
get to eat a
it's
ton.
probably why you can put on that muscle. It's like people that have such a hard time eating, which is weird to me, right? Because I'm like you. I can't, I have no problem eating. That's
Yeah,
never been an issue for me. So it's always funny to see people and meet people that have like an issue eating.
yeah.
I was listening to somebody, is it Ian? Uh yeah, Ian, I think he was talking about like how he's not like he doesn't, even though he's like a pro bodybuilder at top level, he doesn't like to eat that much. And it's like I never had, I don't even know how to relate to somebody like that. Like my problem is always like eating too much, I'm like I have to like try to slow down. So you say this is the heaviest you've ever been. Like what's the difference between your off season and your like stage weight?
My stage weight, I was 47 kilos. I'm not sure
Mhm.
what that is in pounds.
That's okay.
And I'm
People can always like figure that out.
and
It's
I'm
2.2 per
yeah,
pound. Yeah.
exactly. And now I'm 130 pounds, so that is almost 60 kilos,
Yeah.
59.
So quite a lot. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's all intentional. You're trying to like you're eating, like how's your diet in your off season? Like what are you eating?
So just the usual
Oh, yeah.
bodybuilder stuff, I would say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in my I have 5 meals a day. So meal one would just be a bunch of oats,
Mm.
almond butter, whey protein, and then meal two would just be rice cakes and eggs. Meal three, chicken, rice, veggies. Meal four, oats again, with whey and almond butter, and
Uh-huh.
meal five is again chicken with beef or
Yeah.
whatever meat.
How is that for you? Are you doing okay with that kind of like diet? Or you ever feel like you want something, different? Or is there room in your diet for something different?
Yeah, well, I actually love my food. I look forward
Okay.
to eating my food every day. And I've always sort of had the same meals ever since I was young. Like I just kind of made my own meal plan and just stuck to it for a whole year. So
Hmm.
I never really had a problem with that.
Yeah.
But I do have flexibility to switch up my meals because I've got both macros and the meal plan.
Mhm.
So on the weekend, I do switch it up a little bit. If I want to have pizza, then I'll just try to fit that in to my
Got
macros.
got it. So you just adjust it accordingly and then just eat,
Yeah.
whatever you want to eat. Yeah, I was kind of curious. You mentioned something earlier, just to kind of go backwards. You said you don't want to be as freaky like walking in the streets and stuff like that. How is it in the Netherlands? And I've been to quite a few places around the world. I'm actually originally from Ukraine, but I've never been to Netherlands. How is being like a bodybuilder, especially as a female, in everyday life? Do you get a lot of people approaching you? Do they say things like how does that work? Or are people pretty accepting of, your physique?
I don't think I've gotten a lot of comments in
Hmm.
public. Well, they'll always comment on my legs.
Uh-huh.
But in the gym, I would just say that, yeah, people are really shocked, I would say,
Hmm.
but in a good way,
Right.
um, because they have not really seen someone, or they don't really see someone as small as me being very shredded.
Yeah.
So, I would say that it's quite accepting.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Not at
haven't
any bad comments.
haven't run into anything crazy.
No,
Got
not
it.
at
Got
all.
it. Yeah, I wonder if it's because you're in a division that's fairly has like a fairly accepted feminine look. I wonder
Yeah,
if things would be different if you were, let's say like in the female
a physique.
bodybuilding, yeah,
Yeah,
or physique or something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Ha-
because I was. Oh,
no,
sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I want to hear.
Um, because I was just about to say because I don't. I would say that I look sort of freaky because I get really dry and have veins, but
Mm-hmm.
I think compared to like women's physique or bodybuilding, I'm still kind of proportionate, I
Sure.
would say.
Yeah. No, no,
So
I
it's
get it.
not like I stand out as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I get it. So you get really dry. Is that like a genetic thing, or do you do something to like get your
No, I just get dry. So I, I don't know. Like I got dry probably about 5 weeks out from my show, and
really?
my feedback from my show was that I was way too dry.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I don't think I've ever, so I've interviewed a lot of wellness competitors and I've never had, and I've always asked them like, what are their, what are the judges tell you, like, what do you
Hmm.
need to improve on? I've never had anybody say you were too dry. Like, so
Yeah.
that was your feedback? Just too
That
dry?
that was yeah, that was my feedback. I was way too dry, too conditioned, they said,
Mm,
and I
mm.
needed more mass.
Right. Okay. Well, more mass makes sense because you're just starting
Yeah,
out.
for
But
sure. Yeah.
yeah, but too dry. Yeah, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, huh. So so like how do you combat that? Like not getting too dry, I wonder.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually because I've always had the problem of like I of becoming like my upper body stays striated, I would say, through
Hmm.
even throughout my whole off season.
Hmm.
So um yeah, I literally had my pecs showing when I was stage lean.
Yeah.
And there were striations on my glutes as well, and that's not
Yeah.
what we want to see.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think the look that they're trying to like mimic that whenever they judge girls, they're trying to I guess ideally compare it to Fran, who is,
Yeah.
the Olympia champ. So she's like the model of like what, wellness should be.
Mhm.
Speaking of that, how do you feel about like Fran? Do you think she's a good representative of the division, or would you rather, see a different kind of physique represent wellness?
No, I actually think that she's a really good representation, and I was happy that she won.
Hmm.
Because I, I mean, none of their physiques are really attainable for normal people, but I would say
Yeah,
her
of
physique
course not.
is
Yes.
her physique is the most attainable, I would
Hmm.
say. It looks like you could train really hard as well, just need a lot of time.
Yeah.
um, just to get her physique, and she's not overly like she's not too dry, she's not way too big, I would say, because I feel like now there are wellness competitors which I've seen online on Instagram getting a lot bigger, like really, really, really big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So to that point, I agree with you. She's very balanced, and
Hmm.
I hope they keep that standard for wellness.
Yeah,
So far it seems like they are keeping that standard,
yeah,
but like you said, I've also seen that same trend where you have wellness girls, and they look great.
yeah,
Nothing wrong with the way they look, but for the division, it does seem like if they get rewarded, that this will push the division like to a bigger size,
yeah,
especially like some of them, essentially have bodybuilding legs with
yeah,
like a,
yeah.
with like a
Smaller
feminine
upper
upper
body.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's yeah, it's going to be interesting in the next years how, how things go, but I really do feel like they need to keep it at that level. I mean, Fran is obviously not going to win forever. Somebody's going to have to take
Hmm.
her place at some point. I just wish whoever takes it has a similar build. Issa is a great example of that. So I think so for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole getting dry thing, that's it's going to be interesting how you're going to deal with that. So when you're adding mass, your goal I'm sure is to add more mass as you go on. Like what are your like how is your training, to try to accomplish that? Is there anything
Um,
specific that you're doing?
well, I'm training legs 3 times a week and
Mhm.
my upper just once. Well, 1.5 times because I've
Mhm.
got 2 times like I've I've got one session that's glutes and hamstrings, and then a second
Mhm.
session quads, and then the third session is posterior chain. So that is mainly hamstrings and glutes with back. 2 exercises of back.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just high volume, and I train quite a lot for my legs, so not really like anything special, I would say.
Yeah. So you do more of like volume training and high repetition as opposed to just heavy like heavy load with less reps.
Yeah, so my rep ranges are around 8 to 12, sometimes
Hmm.
12 to 15.
Hmm. Are you working with a coach?
Yeah, I
You
do.
are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is so are you're seeing so it's interesting. So like the reason I asked that is because and I don't necessarily have a concrete opinion. I think it's, everybody's a little different on how they respond, but there's like this one model where people do like high repetition, like you high
Hmm.
volume, burnout, that kind of thing. And then you have those who do like minimal reps, excuse me, and heavy weights, and that's supposed to stimulate growth.
Yeah.
What made you go with the high volume option? Is it just something that your coach like recommended, or did you see yourself improve with that style?
It's something my coach just put on my plan, but I also
Hmm.
prefer the higher rep range because then
Hmm.
I can really focus on the form.
Hmm.
Because I used to do CrossFit as well, so I did a lot of 1 rep maxes. And
What didn't you do? It sounds like you did
what did I
everything. You
do?
did.
I did do quite a bit. Well, I did karate as a child. I did that competitively, and then I did track and field. I did that competitively, like I represented my country for that. And then I
Wow.
did after track and field, I got a burnout actually at 15 because I trained way too much.
Yeah, yeah. So you've done so much that by 15 you were like, I'm
Yeah,
done. Yeah.
exactly. And I didn't want to do a solo sport anymore, so
Hmm.
I thought I'm gonna join team sport. I did that for a few years, um, for my country as well. And now here I am.
You're quite the athlete. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. How, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I'm 24.
Oh, so you've got your whole life ahead. You could do bodybuilding, you can go back to another sport, then you can try something
Yeah,
else.
exactly.
You could do swimming, whatever, It's
Yeah, like the problem with me is I cannot start something and just do that for fun. So if I ever think of doing boxing, I just cannot join that just as side hobby because I'll get
yes.
way into it and then I'll just start competing. Yeah, no, I cannot
You,
hold
you
myself back.
you get obsessed. Yeah, you get
Yeah,
obsessed.
exactly.
Well, that's they say that's the mark of like like a quote unquote champion or somebody who's like really like just has that mindset, at least the champion mindset is quote unquote, it's that obsession where you cannot you strive to perfection no matter what you do, no matter, you push yourself. It's like it's a really like interesting quality, but it's what like a lot of times propels people to be at like a higher level while others kind of can be mediocre and be okay with it. So I think it's like a mental outlook.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like so many people ask me what my hobbies are, and then I always have such a hard time like answering that question because I don't ever think I've ever had a hobby
Yeah.
because I've always been so into it that it
Uh-huh.
becomes my life.
Right,
You
right. Your
know?
hobbies turn into like, yeah, like your life, like you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. You maybe you need something that's like not athletics related, like
That's what I
painting,
thought. Like,
like
yeah,
painting or something, like
or like reading. I don't
yeah, I
know.
like reading. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's interesting. Have you ever thought about speaking of reading, as I started like getting into athletics and sports and different things, I was involved in combat sports earlier too, before bodybuilding. as that transition from competing to more helping people, I did a lot of reading and things like that. So it like motivated me to do that. Have you ever thought about like helping others, or do you do that right now?
I do that right now actually. So
Okay.
for my job, I'm a researcher and I help patients with rheumatoid arthritis.
So I saw that on your page. So can you talk about
Yeah.
that? Like how does that work? Like what do you do?
So what I do is that so my main research field is how exercise can improve the symptoms of patients with rheumatoid arthritis.
Hmm.
So what I do is that I sometimes meet with the patients and I do measurements and I write a paper about it.
Oh,
About
okay.
yeah. So my supervisors and I just think of a topic,
Hmm.
a possible topic, like how, for example, how strength training can help them, and
Hmm.
then we'll do a bunch of strength training tests on them and exercises, and we write a program for them, and then we'll just measure their strength before and after, and I'll
Hmm.
write a whole paper about that.
Interesting. Very interesting. So this paper, is it specific to, so I guess I'm trying to figure out. So is this, are you more like in a clinical setting where you're helping this individual, or are you writing a paper that might eventually get, like either published or used in other research? Like how, like what is the paper for? I guess like what is the writing
Um,
for?
Both exactly.
Mhm.
So I publish papers into the rheumatology journals,
Wow.
and
Okay.
yeah, and we also give presentations to the patients as well, and we
Interesting.
have contact with the rheumatologists and the doctors and the physios, and we try to apply our research in their practice.
Got it. Got it. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. That's almost as interesting, if not more, about the bodybuilding thing. That's that I was kind of curious. So does working out help with rheumatoid arthritis, or is it strictly a genetic thing?
I would say it's strictly a genetic thing, but
Okay.
I think working out would make me have osteoarthritis
It would make
instead.
you have what? I'm sorry. What did
Uh,
you say?
um, the osteoarthritis because
Okay.
that's just the wear and tear of joints. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So are you saying that working out contributes to
yeah,
arthritis later on? Okay.
I think it does.
It does. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. So I don't know, this might be like going really too deep into it, but and it's okay if we can, we can go to something else, another subject, but is there a way to work out in that's protective, that you wouldn't get as much damage, or is that just normal wear and tear that there's no way to get around?
I would say that there's a balance because if you're just a normal fitness person who goes to the gym
Hmm.
a few times a week just for fun, um, I don't think the wear and tear would be as big as a bodybuilder who's trying to train to failure, for
Right.
example, four
Right.
times a week. Um, so I would say mm, there is a balance, but
Yeah.
um,
So
yeah, if you train a lot harder, then there's higher chance of wear and tear.
right. So there's a like direct correlation with intensity. So it's like the more
Yeah,
intense you get, the faster you will deteriorate those
yeah,
joints, ligaments, and things like that.
and females actually are more prone to more wear
Hmm.
and tear compared to males. So
Got it. Do you guys so your research, is it only on the movements and exercises, or is it on drugs as well? Like any kind of like help drugs that might help with that or anything like that?
we do we do I do actually have a study on um the the efficacy of drug absorption with exercise.
Mm, okay. Okay.
So
So
but
that's
it's mainly about exercise.
got it. Got it. I was just kind of curious if any of the, and of course this probably would not fall anywhere into your realm of studies, but I was curious to know if like performance enhancing drugs benefit in, reducing any kind of arthritis or anything like that. We know that's kind of a prevalent thing in bodybuilding and
Yeah,
really sports in general, not just bodybuilding. As much as some sports like to believe that, or like to pretend that their athletes don't, take
yeah,
them, they definitely do. And
yeah,
so I was just kind of curious, but yeah, that's probably way out of your field of study, I'm sure, right?
yeah. But that
Yeah.
would be very interesting indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. So how did you get involved in that? Was that just something that you've always wanted to do or like just fell into?
Um, well, I did pre-med actually, and I wanted to
Hmm.
become a doctor, a surgeon specifically.
Okay.
Um,
Like
and
cut
I
people
and
up.
I yeah, and then I did uh an an internship.
Hmm.
And I realized that being a doctor wasn't for me because I care way too much for the people. And I took things way too personally,
Yeah.
and that's not what you want. So I thought I'll just maybe help out from the back, from the background.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got
Um,
a big heart. That's what it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, and I'm really good at writing papers specifically, so I thought
Hmm.
that it's perfect for me.
Yeah, yeah. It was I think I mentioned it to you, but I'm in, or maybe I didn't, I don't know, but I'm in nursing school
Hmm.
right now. So I just finished the first semester and it's always interesting because you have people that are very good at certain things, right? You have people that are obviously like more more inclined to like emergency medicine, and then you have
Yeah,
people that are more inclined to like bedside care, and then others that are just more into research, like. So
yeah,
but the great thing about medicine is there's so many options, right? Like there's a lot of different
that's
options to
true.
go into. So you're a perfect example of that. Like you wanted to go one way, then you're like, I don't feel like doing that.
Nah.
So and then then you went somewhere else with the same,
Yeah,
kind of like tangent, in the medical
exactly.
field. So anyway, but yeah, I do find that interesting that you're like, yeah, working out it will definitely cause you have
Yeah,
more arthritis, but I'm gonna go
yeah.
ahead and bodybuild. Like,
Yeah, I mean, with all my sports, it's so funny. And then we'll always talk, like in school, we used to talk about how you would get like Alzheimer's if you had too many concussions. And I was like, oh, that would be me. It's like, okay, so I've got a high chance of having Alzheimer's or dementia or
right.
arthritis. I was like, you know what? It's fun anyways. I'll just do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it's one of those things where like you kind of have to be reasonable because it's like
Mm,
if you worry about every little thing, you're not going to be able to do anything because everything that you do is going to have some kind of negative consequence. So you kind of have to like be balanced and be reasonable and, make those decisions, for yourself. I
exactly.
mean, hopefully you won't have any concussions in bodybuilding. Like that's,
No, I
hopefully
hope
we'll
not.
avoid that.
Yeah. That would be really serious, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. That would be an interesting story if you end up with concussion in bodybuilding. But
Yeah.
so what are your plans as far as other shows? Or you've got like a show in mind, or like what are you thinking?
Well, I don't want to step on stage until I know that I can be in the mix of the people in the pro
Got it.
qualifiers because I want to get my pro card. And here you would, well, I think it's the same there. Well, but you would have to do a regional first and then the pro
Hmm.
qualifiers. And I kind of want to do them straight in one season.
Yeah, and try to get your pro card
Yeah,
once you.
exactly.
It,
Um,
yeah, it's doable. It's doable because I've actually interviewed a few people that have done something similar. Now, you said you have four shows, so it's probably
yeah,
doable in Netherlands as well. In the US, there's a lot more options, like there's a lot more shows. So, but there's also a lot more competitors, probably, I would
yeah.
think. Yeah. So,
And yeah, actually, there are not that many options here as well as in terms of pro qualifiers because
Mm-hmm.
so after the regionals, I would have to travel to other countries in the EU
Mm-hmm.
because there's only one pro qualifier here, which is at the end of the year, literally like the
The
first
last.
week of December, and that's the last of
Yeah.
the entire year.
So if you
It's not
don't
very
get if you
nice.
don't get it, it's kind of like you don't have another option to
No,
try your hand at it. Yeah. Yeah.
no. So it'll be nice if I can do it all in one shot. But yeah, I'll just wait and see if my coach thinks that I'm good enough, I would say, to step on that stage.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I always say, and I kind of say this about people going from amateurs to pros, is that you don't want to, you almost don't want to win your pro card when you're like when you're when you're an amateur that's not competitive with pros yet, like you're not going to be able to be competitive. You almost don't want to win your pro card yet because you're going to win it and then you're going to go on stage and you're going to get either destroyed
Yeah,
or you're just not going to be able to compete, and so you're going to get your pro card and you're going to wait for a while. And the people that do the best are the ones that are already at the pro level, like with their physiques. Then they go compete, they get their pro card, and they're immediately, ready to compete with the pros, and those are the
exactly.
ones that really show well, so I think that's a good plan. Are you, like, in your mind, do you have like an estimate of like when you think your body will be at that point? You think a year, two?
Well, I would like to compete next year,
Okay.
I'm not sure
Got
considering
it.
the amount of time I'll need to be in prep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really not sure because the one mistake I made in my previous prep was that I was too stressed with work and my own personal life as well. And then I got
Uh-huh.
into prep and it wasn't a very good way to start it, first of all. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
stressed the whole entire time. So for my next show, I really want to make sure that I'm good both physically and mentally as well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just so that it will just go by very smoothly.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Prep is such a, people don't understand, like, getting in prep and going through prep smoothly is it's not just the eating, it's not just the training, it's like
Yeah,
everything else. It's your mind, you're mentally, like, everything going on in your life. It's like, if it's very hard to deal with other stressors when you're in
yeah,
prep. So yeah, definitely understand that. So hopefully, that'll work out for you.
yeah. And I always tell people that the eating and the training, it's not hard at all. It's really more mental, I would say. This
Mhm.
sport has, I feel like no other sport has challenged my mental part more than bodybuilding, I would say.
Sure, sure. Do you find yourself, and I know you've only, you haven't competed for too long. Do you find yourself suffering a lot when you're in prep, or is it pretty, like, easy with the diet and everything like that?
For my last prep, I would say, or last two preps, it wasn't very difficult for me.
Okay. Okay.
Because I've also been, well, yeah, I've been lean my whole life, so it wasn't hard for
Mm-hmm.
me to get lean, I would say.
Got it. Got it. So you're just walking around dry and lean. You don't even need to.
Yeah,
You're like in constant state of prep.
yeah, exactly.
That's funny. So I was gonna ask you, and you're welcome not to answer if you don't want to, but are you originally from the Netherlands?
No,
Okay.
my parents are from the Philippines, but I was
Okay.
born and raised in Singapore.
Gotcha, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, so how are your, so this kind of leads me to the question that I really wanted to ask was, how is your family, well, what do they think about bodybuilding? And because that's always,
Oh,
like, it's a very interesting sport, right? Because,
yeah,
like, other sports, like whatever sport you do besides bodybuilding, like, most families in the world can kind of get behind. They're not going to be, like, really it's not very polarizing. Bodybuilding seems to be very
Yeah.
polarizing,
Yeah.
different cultures, so I'm just kind of curious.
Um, I would say that they they know about it, and they they know that I'm following a plan.
Uh-huh.
Um, they don't really understand it, of course,
Of
but
course.
they
Yes.
do support me.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way I could put it.
Got it.
Because when I go on calls with my mom, for example, she'll always ask me if I'm still eating um like bad tasting food all the time.
I'm sure if it was up to her, she'd have you eating like, the most tasteful, like the greatest, like,
Yeah.
Filipino or whatever food that
Yeah.
I'm sure. But yeah.
Yeah, she always asks me when I will start eating normal human food again.
That's so funny. Yeah, but like
Yeah,
my grandmother, my parents are like that too. It's like, oh, have this, have that, and I'm like, I don't.
yeah,
And even though I'm not like necessarily competitive at this point, I'm, I just don't like. I don't want to flood myself with like a bunch
yeah.
of food with like high calories and stuff like that. But like for regular people, they don't think about that kind of stuff. So they're just
I
like,
get
yeah,
that. Yeah,
what's wrong with you? Why aren't you eating this?
yeah, exactly. And they don't really, well, at first they had well, not really a problem, but they had to get used to me posing in my bikini.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, online, but now they're fine with it. So,
Sure,
well,
sure,
I think
sure.
they're fine with it.
They're as fine as they're gonna get, right? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. That's interesting. I was, yeah, Singapore. So you were born and raised in Singapore, right? You said
hmm
until what age?
Until 14, and then I moved to Hong Kong
Oh,
after
so where did you learn English? In the Netherlands?
in Singapore
Oh,
because yeah,
you
it's my
know
first
what?
language.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I don't know. For some reason in my mind, because I remember I had a one when I first started this podcast, and it was my goal. I was like, I want to interview people, but I don't want to just interview people that are like professionals at the high level. I want to
hmm
interview everybody from the bottom up, amateurs, pros, whatever. And so, like, one of the girls that I interviewed was from Singapore, bikini girl, a competitor, and she spoke perfect English. And so like
hmm
I remember now. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you said it's a first language right there. Yeah.
yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah. Never been. How is Singapore?
good.
Yeah.
It's really nice, but I would say that I prefer Hong Kong a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
better than Singapore.
Do you go back to Hong Kong often or not?
Um, well, now not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been back since before COVID,
Got it.
actually, I think.
Okay. Okay.
It's been quite a while.
Got it.
Um, but yeah, I would
Yeah.
say Hong Kong is way nicer than
Yeah.
Singapore. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it has both the mountains and
Mm-hmm.
the beaches as well, and it's not a fake beach, not like in Singapore. It's like a man-made beach as
Yeah.
well.
So is everything and if I feel like everything I hear about Singapore is man-made. Is everything there like pretty much just like built up, like
Yeah,
kind of at
I
a,
think it is.
nothing, so to speak? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most, well, not all of the land are, what's the word? Reformed? Is it
Mm,
reformed?
I'm not sure.
Um,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Why not?
Um, but they're quite um yeah, quite a lot of land there is
Yeah.
it's man-made.
Got it. Yeah. So like when I hear you say that, I think of a place like Dubai or something like that, where
Yeah,
it's like
pretty much, yeah.
there was nothing there and then they just built everything on top of
Yeah.
it. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, cool. So how many languages do you speak then?
Let me
How a
see. English, Mandarin, Tagalog, Dutch, four.
four? Okay.
Yeah.
So you said Dutch, English, Mandarin, and then what was the other
And
one?
Tagalog. That's the
Tagalog. Okay.
Filipino language.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's quite a lot. Yeah, you've got quite a lot going on in that brain.
Yeah, it's a mess up here.
Do you ever get like like for me, like I know Ukrainian, Russian, and English, so it's like a lot of it, like I'll mix things up and I'll say things in
All
like
the time.
yeah, it's so funny because when Americans like listen to me speak with to like my mom or something like that,
Yeah.
it would be like I'll speak some in English, some in Russian, some this, some that, and it's like
Yeah.
it's just such a mixture, things. So
Yeah, and especially now that I speak more English as well, it's like I just drop like English
uh
words into my
just
sentences.
randomly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Well, and I don't think even through this whole podcast, I don't think I've actually asked you how to pronounce your name. Is it Maia or is it something else?
Maya.
Oh, so it's just Maya.
It's just Maya.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I was enunciating like every letter of your name, and I was like, well, it's Ma, but then there's an I there, so then
Yeah.
that's like okay, well, my E is like
Yeah.
there's an A, so I'm like okay, so it's just Maya. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's simple enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hey Maya, I appreciate your time. I don't want to take up any more of your time. It was great chatting with you, and I wish you the best in your bodybuilding career, and
Thank you
then
so much.
also your research career on arthritis. Maybe you'll find a way to stop us all from having arthritis. I don't know.
I hope.
So, but again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much as well. This was a lot of fun. I
Of
enjoyed
course, of
it.
course. You take care. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you
All
and
right.
have a good night.
Yeah.
A good
Good
night's
night.
rest.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.